Well, hello, hello, hello. You are listening to the No Brainers Empowering Possibilities Show. These are dialogues of encouragement with fresh perspectives, invitations to ahas, a little bit of science, a touch of behavioral science, and a whole lot of creative fun. So if leveling up is on your radar, my friend, you are at the right show. I'm Roseanne Marsh. I am the author of the teen and parent empowerment curriculum called Level Up, Empowering Possibilities. And you are listening to episode number 21. Is it time for you to let go of some things? Well, I want you to imagine that you're walking down the street and you see a woman in front of you, and she's carrying a large, heavy box on her back. Now, while she seems to be able to move along, you can't help but think that she'd be a lot more comfortable if she was just had some help. So you rush up to her and say, "Hey, can I help you with that weight that you're carrying?" And she looks at you and for a long time and says, "What weight?" She'd been carrying it for so long that she was habituated to the weight and doesn't even know the difference. But from your perspective, you may be thinking, why doesn't she put that down? Why doesn't she just let it go? But she doesn't seem to notice that a lot of her energy and life force is being usurped by something quite literally she does not need to carry. Now, we may also be carrying some things that to others seem obvious, but we seem to be oblivious to it or really don't know that it's an option not to carry it. And I'm speaking metaphorically, of course. And the objects that we can release are emotional, mental hurts and wounds of the past. A young friend of mine was struggling with a relationship, and as she spoke, she was totally confused as to why she was struggling so much. After all, she told me, I'm listening to uplifting music, uplifting and motivational talks, and as soon as I open my eyes, I reach for a podcast or a talk or a webinar. And as I listened to the routine that she'd adopted for coping with the pain of this relationship that was really going bad, I couldn't help but see that her method for numbing was not using social media or drugs or overeating or withdrawing or any number of things that our society can have. Her method for numbing was to fill every second with something that could mask the pain. Now, I shared with her a saying from a friend. You can't put frosting on a poop cake. It will still be poop cake. What she said was shocked. I believe I explained it. Unless you work on finding the wounds from the past, the limiting beliefs, the unbeliefs, the things you need to forgive or be forgiven from, quite frankly, it won't matter how much you listen to. You will still be full of that stuff from the past. But then he went on to explain, we all have it. Every one of us have that stuff from the past, from past experiences. You're listening to the show right now, you might think, no, I don't have stuff in me that I need to release. But I'm going to tell you, from my opinion, life is not about how perfect we can be and who can have the most ideal life. I don't think that's why we're living here. I think we're almost like in a giant simulation game, and we're here to play the game and learn some lessons. We're really here to stumble and fall and get up again. But that's time with a new knowledge. So let's take this to the gaming world. My son plays and has played many video simulated games. And as I asked him about his experience from where he was several years ago to where he is now, there's a huge difference in his ability to read the environment, change weapons, the gaming information that he has to gather from the location, how he works remotely with other players that are quite frankly from all around the world, and how to win the game being on a team. So I asked him if he ever makes mistakes. He says, "Oh my goodness, all the time." He said, "That's why I like gaming. I get a do-over all the time." And then I try and I fail and then I succeed. And it doesn't really matter because it's not real, but I get to try over all the time until I get really successful at what I do. When I asked him, "So why do you succeed?" He answered me, "Mom, weren't you listening? It's because I learn." And I Of course, just wanted to hear him say it again. You know how moms we are. But, well, aren't we here to learn? Don't we have chances for do-overs? If you haven't listened to episode number 20, make that a priority because it's about a redo day. And it's powerful. But one thing is for sure, we do not get out of this world without having experiences. Much as we would like to, we are going to have experiences. Things that we see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and imagine. We are going to have those. And some of them are amazing and fun and enlightening. And some of them are tragic and hard and may even be debilitating. But experiences do not define us unless we allow it to. I had a more recent conversation with a young man who was fervent about applying for a medical marijuana card. And so as we talked about his reasons for wanting this option, he talked about his emotional pain of losing a really good friend to an illness, and then struggling with finding good friends and feeling very much alone. And so as we talked about his life concern, I recounted to him the poop cake analogy that I just shared with you a minute ago. We really truly live in a society that gives us so many options for diversions and distractions. And it isn't even necessary that we feel an emotion because we can just turn to so many things that mask or numb or help us avoid the real issues for happiness. And while this may not be your journey that you're walking through, and you are happy with your life and satisfied, could there be beliefs, hurts, misinterpretations, and even abuse that is affecting our behavior that we would benefit from healing from? That we would benefit from just letting it go? Well, most everyone that I know has had some tough things happen in their lives. And they could recount what happened and the impact it had on them. But not all of our experiences are here in the conscious mind, ready to just be recounted to others. We are a sum total of everything that we've experienced. And the things that we experience when we're younger, they really have formed that foundation for what we will do in life. So how we would act or react to life and what opportunities we grab has everything to do with what those experiences taught us and our interpretation of the world. So what are some examples of things that we might be holding on to? The first 7 years of our life, we're like this sponge. We're just drinking in all the perceptions that life gives us. And we're setting that foundation for how we're going to view life. If we grow up in a home that's dysfunctional, where there's alcoholism or abuse or violence, that experience becomes a memory that in many ways keeps us stuck with the perceptions and trauma of that time. So we end up looking at life through the eyes of that 4-year-old or that 7-year-old or that 15-year-old or whatever age it is. And it puts a slant on our reality. We carry that memory. And when we have sights or smells or experiences that remind us of the past, we react as if we're going through it again. So we can try to outrun those memories, but we can't because there is always like that shadow that's always present. Let's say that at age 5, you were told, stop talking and be quiet. Maybe that was just a plea from your mom who had experienced a really hard day and just needed a moment to think. Trust me, as a parent, I've had those times of frustration when I've said things to my kids just because they didn't know where I was coming from. But a comment meant for a brief pause on what was probably your exuberance in life as a 5-year-old was probably taken to heart, who really wanted to express him or herself. But really one comment to our tender souls could be enough to form a belief in us that we need to stop talking and not be heard, or that our voice and our opinion is not valued. If then we are in school and a teacher and others reinforce that we should be quiet, pay attention, or don't speak out in class, that belief is reinforced time and time again, and our neural pathways are formed. We start to react to life as if our voice isn't valued and that we should be quiet. The mind looks to validate its beliefs. So now fast forward now to a place where we're deciding what classes to take in school. Do you think we're going to sign up for a debate team if we believe that our voice and our opinion are valuable? Probably not, because there's probably been other incidents in their life that the brain grabs onto and says, see, this just validates that you don't have a voice or you shouldn't speak up. So then let's fast forward into later in life. Let's say you're part of a corporate team and they're coming up with all these ideas for a project. And if you have a subconscious belief that in the past, that your voice is not one to be heard, are you going to participate full out? Well, probably not. Even if you have these amazing ideas, when others are pitching their twist, and you may hang back and have some serious doubts about what you have to offer. Now, I know this may seem strange to think that something from when you were a child could affect you today, but the things you experience, the things that your neurons have recorded, are truly a filter by which we view life. These are your programs, and it affects what you do and you don't do. In our youth retreat, we have our teens take turn looking through programs that may be affecting their lives. So we say, okay, how would your life be affected if you were reacting to life with the filter of guilt or shame or worthlessness? And we'll ask them things like, how would this affect you on the job if shame was a filter that you were looking through? And think about that for a second. If you had shame, how would that affect you on your job? If the filter you were looking through was guilt, how would that affect how you are reacting to life? And if worthlessness was that filter that you were looking through, how would that affect your relationships that you're in, or those that you might potentially have? Something we need to remember, there is no truth filter. So whatever comes in, our mind just takes it. It doesn't say, oh, wait, that's not true. You're full of something. You shouldn't feel guilty about that. No, our mind doesn't do that. Our mind just takes it in, and it's just an informational gatherer. So our beliefs drive the behaviors that then become our destiny. So how do we know how to look for things to let go for? So here's a dead giveaway as to where to start looking. Triggers. Have you ever been triggered? When you get triggered by something, when I say triggered, I mean you get offended or mad or bothered or irritated, but there's an emotion that comes up with that. Now, what sorts of things trigger you? Think about that. I bet one popped to you right away. Oh, yeah, that, or people who are slow in the traffic, or all these different things. When there's a trigger, it's time to figure. It's time to figure out. A trigger is bringing up some emotions that are buried in our system, our neural system to be exact. By looking at the emotion that brings it up, we can figure out what needs to be cleared, what we need to let go of. Now, at the very end of this, I'm going to tell you a science factoid that literally you're going to want to pay attention to at the very end, because it's mind-blowing. And it gives a huge reason why we need to clear these things out. So triggers are a mirror for us. They're actually reflecting back to us a negative emotion that we need to take care of. So the trigger can be an emotion that is touching on a wound, on an experience, something that happened in the past. And it's just begging us to clear it out or pay attention to it or look at it again, evaluate it, and maybe clean it up and let it go. Or that irritation that you see in someone else can be something that's in you. What? Yeah, I know it's hard to swallow that one, but it could possibly be that you were able to see a flaw in another because it is in you. We aren't perfect. We just need to get rid of the stuff that we've been collecting all the years and make sure that we're just not putting frosting over it. So wait, you may be saying, so something that bothers me, triggers me from somebody else, I have to let it go? Well, what about them? Why don't we make them change? Let's make them less irritating or be more honest or more agreeable or whatever. Okay, Lena, here's the secret. We don't have a magic wand that will change other people. Or you may have stewardship and control over children and others, but truly, the only ones that we can change are ourselves. We can change our perspectives. We can work out our frustrations. We can heal our wounds. We can change our stories. We can take ourselves out of victimhood and walk forward, shedding the slights and the offenses of the past and become a better version of ourselves. And there's no shame in having stuff to release. That's why we're here, to experience something and then sort it out. Experience something and then sort it out. So I want you to imagine getting into a ski boat and you're going across a lake, and there are the beautiful inlets and areas that you can explore. And as you get into the boat, along with you, you bring in 5 or 6 anchors. And then you quickly toss them overboard. Now, you all know how an anchor works. Their purpose is to keep the boat from moving, right? But as you rev up the engine and take off, it's as if you're crawling as you drag behind you the weight of these anchors. These are things in the past, those experiences we have, that act as if we were dragging behind us anchors. And we're going forward, straining against it. But imagine now if you had the skills and the tools to first identify what those anchors are. And the second one, the willingness to let them go. So I'm triggered. What does that mean? And how do I know what to let go of? Well, we want to identify patterns. If you've asked yourself this question, why does this always happen? That's a really good place to start to identify what you are vibrating out to the world and what's being magnetized back to you. What program beliefs are you looking at life through? And more importantly, what is that root cause that doesn't serve us now? Remember that our beliefs are created by experiences, and they're either real or imagined. Our brain is so incredibly strong. You can experience something in your mind, and it's as your body experiences it as if it is real. So if our thoughts and our imagination linger long enough, they can control how we see the world. So we can use that to our advantage to see a better way to see the world. It's these programs of limiting belief that need to go. And when we do that, we get an amazing clarity. So let me give you an example. Let's say you get irritated because your friend is such a know-it-all. So that irritation is the emotion we want to look at. So whatever emotion is around that trigger, that's the place to start. So ask yourself, am I a know-it-all also? Is that why I can see that? Is that why that triggered me? Another question we could ask ourselves is, why am I so irritated? What does this irritation remind me of? What other circumstances in my life left me this irritated? Let's say that your mind goes back to a time when you were triggered and irritated that same way. And it was when you were younger and your uncle would always come around and would know the better way you should be doing anything. When you'd mow the lawn, he would have a better way to trim, a better way to mow, a better way to bag the grass. And quite literally, it drove you crazy. Okay. Now we know what to get out of our system. In this case, process out your irritation with your uncle, with that specific situation. So identifying your emotion or an emotion you're dealing with, you go back into your mind to the earliest remembrance of that emotion and see if you can capture a moment in time when a scenario happened. Maybe it isn't the first time, but if it's earlier experience than what you're currently triggered on, you tap onto the past and then get a memory of a place that you can start. This is something you need to let go of. And this is one of your anchors. So when we clean up our beliefs, it pulls to us new life, new things, awesome changes, and it cuts those chains to those heavy anchors. They're quite literally holding us back. Those anchors are taking energy to drag around. Those energies are keeping us from forward movement. Those anchors keep us from clarity and living in a less distorted world. And these anchors affect our relationships. And those anchors affect how we feel about ourselves. So why would someone not remove those anchors, those limiting beliefs? Why would they not let things go? Well, probably for the same reason I didn't until 8 years ago, when a difficult life experience forced me to take a look at life with a different lens. The divorce that at the time put me in a tailspin literally landed me on a journey to find more empowerment and healing from so many angles. I find those tools that brought healing and peace and control over my controllables. And it wasn't about pointing fingers and saying that person should change and that circumstance should change. And if only, and when are they going to? No. It was all about my recognition of, it's all about the only one that I have control over. And that's me. And I'm ready to let some things go. But you may be like me. Also, you might have thought, well, I didn't know what I needed to let go of. And I didn't know how to do it. And I didn't really want to revisit a lot of the hard things in my life. But today, I want to tiptoe you at the very end here into how to let go of some of those anchors, how to find some of those things, and really see the freedom that comes from gathering back into the present, the energy that you're expending on the past. You know, it takes energy, life force to keep past alive. It takes energy to keep revisiting those stories. You can't get to the end of the story if we keep going back and rereading the past chapters. So here's some things that can help serve you. We're going to look at 2 different things in your life. So take some notes because you're going to do this on your own. Let's start here. Make a list of those things that trigger you. Okay, we just talked about triggers. Identify then, what emotion does this bring you? And think of the earliest situation you can remember in your past when you had strong feelings about this. And then who was involved? Who are the characters, the situation surrounding all those things? Gather that information. And here's the second scenario that I want you to gather information about. Where do you get stuck? Where are those stuck points in your life? Where you not get forward traction? So what are the emotions and the feelings that brings up? Maybe it's you're disorganized and disorganization brings shame. Well, then shame is the emotion that we're going to work with. But I want you to think back to the earliest situation when you can remember the past when you had those same strong feelings of that. And then again, who was involved? What's the scenario and the characters? Now, this may have prompted you to think of several things and really dig deep to access those things from the past. Sometimes it helps close your eyes and tell your subconscious that you need them to find in your life times when you felt this particular emotion, this particular feeling. Your subconscious will help you out. It's really pretty cool. So then what do you do with this? This exercise, let me emphasize this, is for your eyes only. You're going to journal this out. And this will allow you to have a voice to those experiences, but you're not going to share it with the people involved. That's not the point of this. We can't go out and try to change, persuade, or whatever. This is where we're working. So what's important is that you experience the voicing of your feelings and letting go of some of those feelings that are putting it down. Decided I'm gonna totally let this go, or I'm at least gonna let this portion go. But really go into this with, I'm ready to put this thing down. So the journey would look something like this. As I'm journaling, I'm going to journal what I remembered happening, the different perspectives, things people said. Then I want to write down how it made me feel. And then because of how I felt, these are the things that happened in my life. Then I want you to journal, well, I wish it could have happened this way. If there was a redo, I wish it could have happened this way. And then I want you to write down, but I learned this from the experience. This is what I learned. Now, I want you to also look for a bright spot, even though there's hard things that happen in our life. And this may even be something you're journaling that's something you did the mistake you made or mishandle something. But a bright spot is it can help us become something positive or stronger when we learn from that experience. What did that teach you? And who did you become because of that experience? So look for that bright spot. Then you could end by writing out, I'm sorry for anything I did that was wrong. Take all the responsibility that you need to take. Forgive me for the part that I played for that. And then thank you for what I learned. Because of it, I now will let this go. And I replace that feeling and emotion of whatever it is with a feeling of this. Now you're going to twist that and you're going to put a positive emotion opposite of that one. If it was chaos and etc., then it's calm you're going to add in. Now, anytime you release things, anytime you let things go, you want to replace it in your heart, in your head, wherever you're feeling it in your body with something amazing and beautiful. The universe would just love to fill you with whatever, but if you decide what you're going to house in your body, you decide what you're going to house in your mind. And then you decide how you want to feel in your life. Set that intention that you're going to let things go. So I said that there was something scientific that I wanted to say that was mind-blowing about why we should let things go. If you're familiar with the study of epigenetics, this is the study of the DNA strand that we pass on from generation to generation. So the mother and the father combine, and their DNA strand is combined in the fetus. The fetus then grows up as a female that replicates the same thing. And the DNA passes on forever, but the epigenetics is a study of the DNA strand and how environment affects the DNA strand and how emotions and feelings directly affect the DNA strand. Now, while it may not change the structure, what it changes is the disposition of the genes to react or not react based on the empowerment or the disempowerment of emotions. Okay, now think about that. The things that I'm carrying, the emotional baggage, those anchors that I am carrying, I will pass on to my children, who will pass it on to their children. Do you see now why it's so important that we do our work, that we take the frosting off and we look at what's down in there and go, I choose to let this go. I'm not going to numb. I'm not going to pretend. I'm here to learn. I'm going to take care of this. This was just step number one. You need all your creative energy for the here and now in the present to create a better future. Level Up, Empowering Possibilities, that curriculum for the teens and the parents. Let me tell you, I have one chapter that's all about healing the past. There's 8 different ways that you can do it. You don't have to have a therapist helping you. You just need a voice and guidance and tools that can help you do that. If you're interested, you can go to nobrainers.com/learn more. As always, thank you for joining me this week. I hope you enjoyed this one. Remember, you can choose to let these things go. It's liberating. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next week.